Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. No. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. No. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Let me know if you missed the channel part or if you're like good riddance. I'm trying out something else. I'm trying something new. I'm trying to find myself. But today I thought that we could have a good old sit down with, you know, some freaking, what is this? I think this is tea. Or like iced tea. And my Jurassic Park cup, and I thought we could hang out and do some tips and tricks. I wrote some down. I've got my notes here, so let's get into this. If you're interested in hearing some of my tips and tricks on resin crafting, resin making, being a resin artist, then continue watching. Okay, so before we get into my tips and tricks, I would like to put up a little disclaimer. I am not a professional. I am learning every single day just like you guys are. You obviously don't have to make your resin stuff this is the exact same way that I do. If you do it differently, that is totally cool. Again, these are just my personal tips and tricks and the way that I do things. You don't have to do it the same way I do, but if some of these things help you out with issues you might be having, then that makes me happy, and that's why I make these videos. Okay, so the first one that I have on my handy dandy list right here is during cold weather, because I live in New Hampshire and it gets cold. It gets to like the negatives sometimes, like single digit degrees. It's not my personal favorite, but it does get very cold here, and if you've worked with resin in cold weather, you know that it can be very difficult to work with. It can be really difficult to mix in because when resin is cold like that, it gets really thick. And when you're mixing in thick resin, it gets very bubbly, and I know that I've had issues with that before. So my trick for this is, I don't know why I didn't get this out before I started talking about it, but it's this thing. This is my heat gun. I use this for literally everything. I got this off of Amazon. If you want to get one, I have my Amazon link down in the description. You can see the exact same one that I bought. What I do with this tool is while I'm mixing up my resin, I have this turned on the low setting, and I have it about like 6 inches away from the heat gun, but I do have it on while I'm mixing, and I mix it with the heat gun pointed at it, and it warms up the resin while I'm mixing it, while I'm incorporating both A and B together, and that warms the resin up and makes it thinner and easier to work with. And as it makes it thinner, it's also making it so that there aren't bubbles. So when it's thin, it's easier to incorporate into each other, but when it's thick, it does make bubbles. I have heard that some people will kind of take a tote and fill it with hot water or warm water and then put their resin, like the jugs of resin, in that tub and kind of let it sit for a little bit to warm it up. I've tried that, and to me personally, it's just kind of a mess. And honestly, I didn't really see that much of a difference in like how the consistency was and how many bubbles were occurring because it was still kind of thick. So using the heat gun to me is a lot better. I also use this trick when I'm making stuff with, or when I'm top coating, because the top coat is thicker than regular like casting resin. So when I'm top coating things, I will use this and kind of warm it up and get it thinner because it is pretty thick consistency. And then I get little to no bubbles when I use this trick, so I really love using the heat gun to warm up the resin while I'm mixing it. Okay, my next tip is get a flower press. If you work with flat or pressed dried flowers, you have to have a flower press. I mean, okay, you don't have to. You totally don't have to. It is $50, and I totally get just pressing it in books because that's what I do and did for a long time. But if you work with flat, you know, like pressed dried flowers a lot, and it's something that you work with like basically every day like I do, definitely get a microwave flower press. This is the one that I have. It's amazing, and I did a whole video like testing this out. And when I went into this video, I fully expected it to not work. I was like, oh my god, this is like the stupidest idea. There's no way I'm going to be able to take a fresh flower and press it in the microwave. But it works. And it honestly keeps a lot of the color. I might say this is my preferred way to press and dry flowers rather than in books. Books obviously take like so much longer. Like they take a few weeks sometimes, but with the microwave, it's it's in minutes. Like, it's done immediately. Oh, and my last tip with the flower press is that I do it in 30-second intervals. So I'll put the flour in and I'll microwave it for 30 seconds. I'll take it out, I'll unfold the whole thing and check it and make sure it's not burning or anything. I take it out, I try to make sure that it isn't wet feeling anymore, and if it is, I'll put it in for another 30 seconds, and the only intervals I do are 30 seconds until it's dry, and every interval I do take it out and check it. So I have seen a lot of people ask me like how long I put my flowers in the microwave for, and that's basically what I do is 30 seconds, take it out, check it. If it's not ready, 30 seconds until it's done. Okay, the next thing I've written is silica gel is a must. I've fallen in love, and this was another thing that I tried for a video and I wasn't sure it was going to work, but by golly, it worked. It's amazing. It is the coolest stuff. So I get this stuff, I'll put a picture up or a little clip up here, but I get this stuff off of, actually I got it at Michael's because you can use coupons there, but the kind I get is this. It's kind of like a sand, and you basically just put like a layer of it on the bottom, flowers in there, and you can kind of basically bury it however you want to shape it. However you do bury it is how it's going to dry and stay. So you can have the flower be like a 3D flower rather than flat or pressed or anything like that. So you can basically control how you dry this, and silica gel to me keeps the most color. I usually leave my flowers in the silica gel for around 4 days, and that's, you know, usually for roses and things that I dry pretty often. If you dry flowers a lot, you need to try silica gel. It's honestly like, if you do this all the time, it's kind of life-changing. The microwave press and the silica gel, they're everything. I'm so happy that I tried them out. I didn't think they were gonna work, but they're amazing. Again, I have videos of me trying these things out, the microwave press and the silica gel, so if you want to see how I make them more in detail rather than just this, I do have videos. I'll try to link them down in the description and up top or something like that, but definitely check the description. I'll try to put them there. So my next one that I wrote is have a heat gun and a torch. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what I was trying to say was that you should have a heat gun and a torch. I mean, it's not the worst thing this desk has ever seen. Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm like not supposed to tell you this next one. I mean, it's like the universe is trying to stop me from telling you to have a heat gun and a torch if you've got the budget for it, because they're both perfect and amazing tools for different reasons. Hold on, let me dig my other one out. So this is my torch, and then this is my heat gun. The heat gun is great for popping bubbles in pieces that are in molds like this, because if you use a torch on a mold like that, you could melt it or you could like damage it in some way. But if you use a heat gun on it, you'll be popping the bubbles without damaging your mold. But this is great for popping bubbles in top coat, because obviously when you're doing a top coat, you don't have a mold around it, so you're not at risk of like ruining any molds. So this is great for popping like micro bubbles, like anything, because the bubbles that are in like thick top coats are really hard to pop. So something really hot like this is great, and you can't really pop bubbles like that with a heat gun. And a heat gun is fun to kind of like move alcohol inks around. So if you've got like alcohol ink in a mold, you can like use this to move it around and kind of mix it all together and do weird stuff with. But they're both great for different reasons. Okay, my last tip is when you are drying roses, I have seen people tell me or comment that you do not have to pull petals out, and you're right, you don't have to. You can do whatever you want, really. But I pull them out because, for a couple different reasons, but mainly because when a rose is like full, it is very thick and it has a lot going on, and it's got a lot of moisture in it, and it will, if you're drying it in a book, it will mold, like guaranteed. If you're drying it in like the microwave press, it might take a long time. It might ruin the flower, or it could burn it because there's just so much. So I do take like the center petals out a little bit, just because I want it to dry easier and better. Also, I want to see the center of the rose, like this little bit in here. I like to see that rather than just like a little, you know, kind of like compact rose. I like to see the center of it. And that is why I pull petals out. Of course, you do not have to if you don't want to, but if you do want to avoid things molding or things burning in the microwave or drying faster, even in silica gel, it could take a lot longer, but that again is up to you. You do not have to, but I do kind of recommend it. It does make it so that you do get better results. All right, and that is my list. Oh my God, I'm a complete failure in this video. I hope some of these tips helped you. I tried to go through my comments and see what I get often and try to answer some of those. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love you to absolute death. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and follow me on Instagram. It is @Artsymadwoman, and I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.